Hello, my beautiful people. Hello, beautiful people. I am Thomas, and we are today approaching the city of Ringos, New Jersey, which is about 15 miles north of Trenton, Hunterdon County, I believe. We're visiting where the home of a famous individual, notorious individual, once stood. And that is the individual by the name of Zelensky, Jean Zelensky. That is her picture. Not the best picture of Jean Zelensky. Well, because there were some instances, some events that happened that day which caused her to be in that state. And it's a very horrific story. I want to tell you about that story. It happened close to 40 years ago. The house does not stand, but I could show you the area, how it looks. And, you could just kind of picture yourself the events of that day. So to backtrack, rewind the story, and this was a national case back then. Many articles on this, Jean Zelensky. We go back to December 22nd of 1978. It was a Friday. The day had been designated for holiday parties as the capital, and we're referring to Trenton, which is the capital of New Jersey, prepared to close down for the long Christmas weekend. And it was mid-afternoon by that point. A lot of people already had their holiday drinks, their holiday whiskey, about ready to call it home and about ready to, leave for the long weekend. Spike eggnog, so on and so forth. But there was suddenly a police commotion at the front of the building, of the Capitol building. And the press in and around that area, including the photographers, grabbed their cameras, they ran outdoors, followed by pretty much everyone in the building, what had happened outside. A woman with hair the color of chalk had driven her Buick up a set of Capitol steps and smashed into a marble pillar. Here are some articles from that day. Witnesses said at that point that she rolled down her window and said, quote, "Merry Christmas. This is what you wanted." With that, she tossed out a brown paper shopping bag, one of those old brown bags that you get in stores now because you can't have plastic. With the wooden staff of a small American flag poked through it. Holiday horror. What was in that bag? State troopers Bernard Weiss, Tom Cluxton, they rushed to the car just as the woman dragged a razor blade across her throat. As the troopers struggled to get her out of the car, the bleeding woman had hollered, "Call my mother." One of the troopers, Cluxton, would later recall. I asked her where her mother was, and she said She's right outside. They were gesturing towards that brown paper bag. People started looking inside, trying to peek through that tossed bag. Peeling back a green plastic garbage bag, they found an orb stained crimson with blood. A human head, double bagged, no less. It definitely was her mother, all right. The woman was Jean Zelinsky. She was 48, and she had lived with her mother, Julia, 78 at the time, in a small house, Ringos, New Jersey. They were 15 miles north of Trenton, which we're going to that location now. It was pretty much a rural location. So apparently what happened that morning, early morning of December 22nd, 1978, Jean Zelinsky, in a psychopathic rage, apparently attacked her mother that morning. She confronted the elderly woman in her bedroom and clubbed her with a hammer. She then dragged the body into the bathroom where she had apparently sawed off the head. Jean had cleaned herself up, bagged the head, and carried it out to her car for the drive to Trenton, waving nonchalantly to a neighbor as she passed. That is Jean Zelinsky's car as it crashed into the Capitol. Jean was, by all accounts, considered an attractive woman whose looks were marred by a wandering eye. Like there was a problem with one of her eyes, and she had never married. And her relationship with her mother, apparently because of this, strained. Her father had already died by this point. The woman, Jean, and her mother argued loud, and they argued frequently. They bickered about Jean's beautiful and successful younger sister, who had given Julia 3 grandchildren. Julia, who did not drive, accused her daughter of holding her hostage in the house. Didn't want to take out her mom. Julia was the mom, Jean was the daughter, remember. Another subject or another issue that kind of was ongoing in this household, apparently, was Jean's decision some years before to give up a clerk's job. We're heading down the street right now, how it looks modern day. Linvale Road, as you can see, it is a rural road. So Jean had years before decided to give up a clerk's job in the state government to return to college to study teaching. Her mother thought it was a poor decision and told her so ad nauseum, right? Apparently, there was some thought that, having a job with the state is more secure than being a teacher, and Jean didn't want to be a teacher. At times, a blinding rage seemed to overwhelm Jean. A week before she was murdered, Julia went to a neighbor to seek help. She said that she had feared her daughter, and she feared that her daughter was going to attack her. This is a Google Earth shot of how Linville Road looks like. The house that they were in, 210, is no longer registers on the GPS. So I believe it was knocked down. Investigators, they found the home that the woman shared in appalling condition. Jean had shredded most of her own clothing with knives, scissors, and razors, and authorities found the cupboards lined with rotting food, cans that were opened wide, then placed in storage. A Hunterdon County judge ruled that Zelinsky was mentally ill and paranoid when she attacked her mother. This is the grave of the mother, Miss Zelinsky. That's Julia Zelinsky. Now, at the time of the trial, Jean was found not guilty by reason of insanity, and she was sent away to Trenton Psychiatric Hospital for an indefinite term, and it would be a very long time until her death. She passed away not too long ago. Jean Zelinsky's name never faded from the front pages, although it did appear it's a name that you speak to anyone in this area, they still know that name, Jean Zelinsky. There was a report that they did with kind of a follow-up story 25 years later after the trial. And Jean Zelinsky, was still in the mental hospital, in the psychiatric hospital. And the reporter had thought that she was an intelligent, articulate, and lucid woman. Quote, "I just woke up that day with this urgent feeling that I had to commit suicide," she told the paper. She decided to take her mother with her into the afterlife rather than leave her living alone and helpless. She confronted her mother with her plan. Remarkably, this prompted yet another argument between, the two. She said, "I will go to jail," and I said, "No, I won't, because I'm going to kill myself." And she says, "No, you will go to jail." Zelinsky had apparently at that time told the Times newspaper. But why heave her mother's head why did she cut her mother's head and just kind of heave it at the State House? It was a question I was asked to her. And she replied, "I was angry at society for turning against me." The state building apparently had symbolized society to Jean. And I was saying to the world, "See how you have warped me by the way you treated me?" Zelinsky was diagnosed at the hospital as a paranoid schizophrenic, but medication and counseling had helped her maintain mental equilibrium over the years. For the most part, she had gradually earned more freedom, including day trips off hospital grounds. But she attempted suicide in 1997, and that worked against her in her attempts to gain release to a halfway house. She told the Trenton paper that she was angry and frustrated over the continued confinement for an act that she had committed for many years ago, so long ago. It's been a long time, and that's in the past. Don't need to dwell on it, she told the reporters. No need to dwell on it. That may be so. But the act of throwing your mother's head in Trenton during a Christmas party, like a lunatic, is not something very easily that New Jersey will forget. I hope all is well. Until next time. This was the case of Gene Zielinski.